मेहनत करोगे और जब आप उस परमात्मा को राइटफुली यूज करोगे, तभी जाके आपको 5 करोड़ रुपए इस जन्म में मिलेंगे।
Okay. So, hello people. We have CS Surojit Ray here with us. Welcome to the show, sir. A very warm welcome to you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. So, sir, as we know that a lot of questions come about when you talk about spirituality or when you talk about religions, there is a lot of questions and concepts that people don't understand, and there is a lot of debate about around modern science and spirituality. So, we have some questions that we have collected from our audiences, and we can
Mhm.
start with that. So, the first question that we have here is, why did we evolve as humans? Now, I believe that spirituality has a completely different answer, mythology has a completely different answer, and modern science has a different answer. Modern science says that it was survival of the fittest, and we came up as just random beings, and randomly we evolved. We were out of a mistake. But what does mythology say about evolution?
Okay, so as I begin, you somewhere said that probably mythology, science, spirituality are kind of contrary in terms of the concept of evolution of man. But as I understand it, they are not contrary. They are in sync with each other. It's just that the destination is the same. There are different routes to adopt to reach that particular destination. So I would label mythology, aka spirituality as one of those paths, and science I would label as path number two. But the ultimate destination or the final answer remains the same. So if you look at science, let's look at science first. It talks about the evolution theory, millions of years of evolution. It's all started with unicellular organisms, and eventually it ended up with Homo sapiens sapien, which is man. Like you and I, we are Homo sapiens sapien. Now that's about science. Now that if we look at it from a spirituality standpoint, and of course it will not be possible for me to delve into everything that exists around this subject because this is a limited podcast. So let me give you a quick summarization as I understand it, basis my reading of the four Vedas, the 36 Purans, and the other literature on this particular subject. And in fact, I was amazed to note that when I read different religions, all religions kind of again sync in terms of the bottom line. It's just that they have used different names, they have adopted different explanations, but the concept or the underlying explanation remains the same. So, what I am currently referring to is what is given in Hinduism, which is the Vedas and the Purans. So, in fact, before I get into the evolution theory, it's important for us to understand what is religion or what is Hinduism, so to say. So, religion, if you go back into history, if you go back into mythology, you will realize that religion has always been a code of conduct. It's been like a rule book given to man or Homo sapiens sapien because we are the most liberated species to exist on Earth. And as liberated species on Earth, we have that privilege. God wanted, or the creator, or whoever created us, typically wanted to give us those privileges which other animals or other beings were not supposed to have. So, civilization, being civilized, was one of those things which the creator expected out of us. And that was the origin of religion. Today, we have several laws in our country. For example, the Indian Penal Code, and every citizen of India is has to abide by the Indian Penal Code. The Indian Penal Code ensures that we don't commit a crime. Same is the case with religion. Every religion is a sort of a rule book given to mankind so that we remain civilized and we are clearly differentiated from animals. So Hinduism also is one of the many religions to exist, probably the oldest religion to exist on earth. Now, the second aspect here, which I want to touch upon, is as Hindus, Manav, you are a Hindu, I am also a Hindu, so to say. And when I ask Hindus, who do you think is your God or your supreme creator? So I get interesting answers from people. Some say it is Ganpati, some say it is Lord Shiva, some say it is Brahma, some say it is Lord Vishnu. So different names, different answers. So yes, Hinduism is a multi-god concept, but very few know that Hinduism also, like all other religions, is a single god concept. It is not a multi-god concept. It is a single god and multiple existence concept. That's what Hinduism is about. So the supreme god in Hinduism, and I'm sure you'll be surprised to know this, probably you also did not know this before this conversation. The supreme god or the supreme power in Hinduism is known as Brahman, Brahman. And Brahman is shapeless and formless. It is visualized as a beam of light. When you look at the Hindu literature, it has always been explained as a powerful beam of light. And the definition of Brahman in the Vedas is it always was, it is, and it shall always remain. So it is the only eternal thing to exist. And same is the definition of God. If you look at the Bible, same is the definition of Allah. If you look at the Quran Sharif. So the first thing to note here is Brahman is the ultimate God in Hinduism. Brahman created out of himself three subsets, which were known as Brahma, Vishnu, and Mahesh. Brahma is considered as the creator, Vishnu is considered as the sustainer, and Mahesh or Shiva is considered as the balancer. Brahma, Vishnu, and Mahesh were given a life of 100 years. So Brahma, Vishnu, and Mahesh in that sense are also having a finite life. It is only Brahman who is infinite and so to say to exist forever. But again, when I say 100 years of finite life, their 100 years is unimaginable for us because one day in the life of Brahma, Vishnu, and Mahesh is equivalent to 4.32 billion human years. So 4.32 billion years, human years itself is something which is unperceivable for us, 4.32 billion years. So that is one day in their life. And like this, they have a life of 100 years. So if you just do the extrapolation, of course, that figure is also so huge that it is near infinite for all of us. But end of the day, yes, it's a finite number. But life of Brahman is eternal. So after 100 years, Brahma, Vishnu, and Mahesh will perish and something else will be created by Brahman. Now, why did Brahman create Brahma, Vishnu, and Mahesh? He created Brahma, Vishnu, and Mahesh as his agents. These agents were supposed to serve him, supposed to entertain him. And in turn, Brahma, Vishnu, and Mahesh then created multiple gods, goddesses, avatars, etc. Because because for humans, jo dikhta hai wo bikhta hai. Unless and until we see God, we don't believe in God. Unless until we see something, we don't believe in it. So Brahma, Vishnu, and Mahesh could not manifest 1,000 times or 1,00,000 times or 1 crore times on earth to prove to people that yes, that supreme power exists. So they had to send their agents in turn, which manifested in the form of different gods and goddesses. Even Lord Krishna, for that matter, is one of the avatars of Lord Vishnu, and he came to earth with a specific purpose, with a specific goal. So this is how Brahma, Vishnu, and Mahesh were created out of Brahman. And then all these three people, Brahma, Vishnu, and Mahesh, these three gods, were given duties by Brahma. Brahma was supposed to create, Vishnu was supposed to sustain, and Mahesh was supposed to balance everything. And Brahman also gave a rule to all three of them. He said that whatever Brahma creates in the morning, every morning Brahma will have to create something new. He's the creator, he's the sculptor. So he has to sculpt something new every morning. Vishnu will sustain it all through the day. And in the evening, Mahesh will destroy what Brahma has created. So like this, every day Brahma will create something new, and what he creates cannot be similar to what he has already done in the past. So every creation of his is going to be unique. Every day will be a new creation. Every night will be a destruction of what he created. Then there will be a lull, a period of nothing at night. And then again, next day morning, there will be a new creation by Brahma. Like this for 100 years, the creation cycle is going to go on. Now, let me sync this with the theory of evolution. We know the Big Bang theory. Yes, this universe got created through the Big Bang theory. And also, scientists have specifically figured out and claimed that this is not the first universe to exist. There were many more before this, and there shall be many more hereafter. Also the life, the pending life of this universe in which we are currently living scientifically ties up exactly with the balance period as quoted in the Vedas for this day of Brahma to end. The day this, the moment this day will end, there will be a destruction. So while science has given a very scientific explanation around how the universe got created, mythology says the same story, it just said it a few thousands of years back, and in a manner which would be understood by people then. Today, we understand what is oxygen, carbon dioxide, we understand scientific terms. 20,000, 30,000, 50,000 years back, science could not be explained. The techniques could not be explained the way we understand it today scientifically. So they were basically the mythology which has been written in different religions has only lived to the times when that particular piece of mythology was written. The language used was of that era, the technology and the understanding was of that era, but the bottom line of the concept remained the same. Science only affirmed it with a hen screwed below everything that they proved, and with proper scientific explanation. Scientific names were given to things, and it was proven. So now coming back to the story of Brahma, Vishnu, and Mahesh. So this universe that we are living in is one day in the life of Brahma. This morning, Brahma created this Brahman through the Big Bang theory. He caused an explosion, and the moment that explosion happened, he could see stones all around. He could see stone and fire because of that explosion, which resulted in the creation of the universe. Now we call this universe the Brahmand. What does Brahmand mean? Creation of Brahma. After the universe was created, the next question or next thought which came to Brahma's mind was, this will be very boring. All through the day, if we have to just tolerate stones and fire around us, this is not going to make life easy for us for this day. So let me create something more. So today, this morning, he got this idea. Okay, in this day, let me create life forms also. All these stones, fire, these are non-living things. Let me create something which is living, something which has got life within it, something which has got Atman within it. And Brahma, unfortunately, is a very, very impulsive god. So the moment he thinks something, next he will execute. Many a times he executes before thinking. He executes and then he thinks. So he got this brainwave where he said that, okay, I want to create life forms, and khatakat, he created crores and crores of life forms. And those life forms were in the form of small diyas, jot of light. That is how those life forms were created. The moment Brahma did this, Vishnu and Shiva were under stress. They said, oh gosh, just hold on. Why are you so impulsive? You said you will create life forms. You should have created 5, 10, 15, 20, 100,000 life forms so that we remain entertained all through the day. You have created crores of them now, multiple crores of them now. And now, how will we manage so many life forms, so many lives that you have created? How will we manage them? Who is going to monitor all of them? They are going to jump on our head. You have created so many monkeys. These monkeys are going to chew our brains all through the day. And unfortunately, the diktat of Brahman is that if Brahma creates something in the morning, nobody can destroy it till the day end. If you create something, you'll have to live with it for all through the day. You can't do a mix and match कि चलो ये अच्छा लग रहा है तो इसको continue करते हैं, इसको delete कर देते हैं. No, that option of delete is not available till it is evening. So now they were under stress. Brahma, Vishnu, and Mahesh. Oh gosh, we have created crores of life forms. Now how do we manage them? They are going to jump on our head. So that's where Shiva came up with an idea that, okay, let's do one thing. Let's create bodies for them. Let's make them tangible. We now see them as beams of light. And this fire, there is so much fire all around that this is going to burn us as well if we can let this remain as a beam of light. So let's first give them a body so that the body covers. Let's put them into a case so that the body covers that particular fire. So the moment Shiva said, and then they also planned that, okay, after we give them a body, we will dispatch them somewhere else. We will not keep them close to us. We will send them, we will identify a place in these rocks which we have created, this Brahmand which we have created. One specific place we will identify and we will dump them there. So they identified Earth as the place where they would send these Atmas which were created. Next, they decided to create the body for the Atma. Now here Shiva came up with a thought. He said that, okay, our day moves very slowly in comparison to the universe that we have created. So that explains why one day of Brahma is worth 4.32 crores of our years. He realized the time zone difference between the place where they were and the universe. So Shiva said that if we just put them in a case and dump them on earth and leave them there for one full day, that's not going to work. It will be virtually like 4.32 billion years over there. And in those 4.32 billion years, these Atmas will create havoc if we just keep them there. So we will have to come up with a mechanism whereby we send them, bring them back, again send the consignment, get them back, send, ana jana, laga rehna padega. We will have to create batches and send them in batches and send them multiple times and bring them back. So in this going, coming, nobody will be there for a very long time. And if he's not there for a very long time, there is limited risk that he's going to wreak havoc at that place. So this is how the modus operandi was decided. So the moment Shiva said we will create life forms for them and multiple life forms for them, bodies for them, immediately Brahma, impulsive, he's very impulsive. He started visualizing. So with that visualization, he created that first unicellular organism, which was tangible. Then multicellular organism. Then he created plants. Then he created other animals, the four-legged animals. From the four-legged, he moved to the two-legged animals. And eventually he created man. In this process, he created thousands of different bodies. So all these microorganisms, plants, animals, and human. Eventually, they were like thousands of different like bodies, different types of bodies. By the time Brahma did all this, Shiva said, hold, stop. Now don't go ahead of this. You are very impulsive. I think we have created sufficient number of bodies now. There are thousands of different bodies that we have created. Now these Atmas can be pushed into these bodies one by one. Slowly and steadily, they can be pushed into these bodies. And we send them on earth, again bring them back. Let us give them these bodies one after the other in different births, send them there, again get them back. And yes, they may also choose to have the same body multiple times. So for example, it's not necessary that we will get only one birth as a human. We may get birth as a human 100 times. We may get birth as a goat 100 times. So he said these few thousand kinds of life forms, bodies that you have created is sufficient for us to send them and get them back. And we will now work on this particular model. Now the next question which came up was, who will manage, who will map the story of every Jivatma? Who will be the monitor to sit down and decide, okay, this Jivatma first went as a unicellular organism, then he went as a multicellular organism. Within multicellular, he took so many births. Now let's migrate him to a plant, then let's move him to an animal, then let's move him to human. Just managing one Jivatma story is going to be so complex. And we are looking at crores of Jivatmas that we have created. So how do we manage this? And that's where Shiva and Vishnu came up with the concept of an ERP. So that's where they created the Karma ERP. In fact, Karma was the first ERP to be ever created millions of years back. Also, when I align this thousands of life forms which Brahma created, bodies which Brahma created, with the theory of evolution, the theory of evolution took a few million years. From unicellular organisms to man, Homo sapiens sapien, the evolution was a few million years. And those few million years were nothing but the 15 minutes Brahma took between creating the first unicellular organism and creating man. He took 10-15 minutes. His 10-15 minutes were a few million years for us. So in terms of arithmetic, when you look at mythology, the arithmetic exactly ties up the evolution theory as given by Darwin, the timelines given there, and the theory given in the Vedas. How much time Brahma took to create the first unit between the first unicellular organism and man the timelines exactly kind of tie up. So now it's hard to say whether Brahma exists, whether this was created by Brahma, or whether this was just the simple evolution theory. But what amazes me is the kind of semblance between the two stories, including the timelines. They could have guessed any other timeline, right? If it had to be fake, it had to be false, then it would have been different timelines. It would not have been the same timeline.
Hmm.
So that apart, so they decided that, okay, we'll create an ERP, and what we will do to decide the timeline for how much time that particular Jivatma will take a particular body and reside on Earth. Let's link his birth and death on Earth. And so birth means going to Earth, death means coming back to us. So let's link his birth and death to his deeds on Earth, whatever deeds he is going to do over there. So as a Jivatma, he will either do good deeds or he will do bad deeds. So let's record all his deeds in this bank account, in this ERP, which we have created called karma. So for every Jivatma, we will have one account in the ERP, and all his deeds, one after the other, every single deed that the Jivatma does will get recorded in that ERP. Whatever good deeds he does will get credited on the credit side in the ERP. Whatever bad deeds he does will get debited on the, will get recorded on the debit side of the ERP. Like this one account where the deeds will get recorded, there will be one more account in that ERP for the Jivatma. That second account will be the karmic relationship that Jivatma is creating with other Jivatmas. So for example, whenever we do a deed, it has two consequences, or it has two entries. The first entry is, let's say I slap you. So that is a bad deed. It's a bad karma. I have physically assaulted you. So the first entry of it goes into my standard karma account, where it gets hit in the debit side as a bad deed which Surojit Ray did. The second entry goes into my that other account, where Manav becomes a creditor in my that particular account, because I have done a deed on you. I have slapped you. So now you have to slap me back again for us to have squared off our deeds, our karmic deeds. Unless and until you have slapped me back again for the slap that I have given you, the account between you and me has not got settled. So there are two entries here. One is my entry of the bad deed which I did, which gets hit in my debit side of the main account. The second account records my deeds, debit and credit, with every other Jivatma on whom I am doing that particular deed. So these are the two places where entries get recorded. And then they said that we will keep this going, coming, fixed for every Jivatma till the time every Jivatma has squared off both these accounts. So he should have a zero balance in his deeds account. He should also have a zero balance in his account with other Jivatmas. The day a Jivatma successfully squares off both these accounts, that's the day when he will come back to us permanently. And he will remain with us for the rest of the day. We will not send him back again to Earth. Till the time the Jivatma does not square off both these accounts, we will keep on sending them, bringing them back, sending them, bringing them back from Earth. And for this, who will manage all this? The ERP. अपने को tension नहीं लेना है. Brahma, Vishnu, Mahesh, and our boss Brahman is only going to see the fun. This we are going to witness the karma being done by all these Jivatmas. And while these Jivatmas do their karmas, we will ensure that we are just getting entertained, and this ERP is kind of recording everything that is happening. अपने को कोई stress लेना नहीं है. We will have an account keeper in this ERP, somebody who runs that ERP. The name of that god is Chitragupta. So he is considered as the account keeper over there. So with this modus operandi, Brahma, Vishnu, and Mahesh decided that all these Jivatmas would go one by one on Earth and come back. And the law of karma, as I said, is very simple. Whatever good you have done, it has to come back to you. You have to be rewarded for the good that you have done in your multiple lifetimes. Likewise, whatever bad you have done, that same bad has to again happen with you. And the day both these goods and bads have been duly kind of rewarded back to you, that is the day when you go back to God. So all our everybody, every Jivatma on earth today, whether it is in the form of a plant, whether it is in the form of an animal, whether it is in the form of a human, our ultimate goal or ultimate destination is to reach God as fast as possible and reach to Him permanently as fast as possible. Finish off our debit credit account quickly. It's a race we are running where we have to wrap this up, our journey on earth quickly and spend maximum time with God. So Hinduism calls it moksha nirvana, the Christians call it salvation. So different religions, Islam calls it being in Jannat. Different religions have given it different names, but the underlying concept remains the same. It's a race of we completing this worldly journey as fast as possible. So with this modus operandi in place, Brahma, Vishnu, and Mahesh created this this automated ERP where Jivatmas would come on earth, spend 80, 90 years or whatever lesser time on earth and go back again. And Homo sapiens sapien or human is the last creation of Brahma today. He did not create anything more advanced than Homo sapiens sapien. He ended his creation cycle with Homo sapiens sapien. Now, after this creation and this plan was fixed, कि चलो हमको ये सब करना है, Brahma came up with another suggestion. He said that, okay, fine. Now we are linking the every Jivatma's existence on earth and back with us to his karmas, to his deeds, whatever deeds he's going to do. So don't you think that by the time, so don't you think that when we are giving birth to a Jivatma in human form, in the form of a human body, we should also bless this human body with certain additional powers so that by the time a Jivatma takes birth as man, he starts understanding karma. Because very honestly, till we are not man, till we have not evolved as man, we are actually not understanding what karma is. So today when a lion kills a goat, he kills it for survival. He doesn't know that killing is a sin. When a monkey kills or when a vulture kills, the vulture does not know this is a sin. He does not have the understanding of realizing what karma is. So Brahma said that, so the rule was we will get born, the Jivatma will get born as man only when he has almost completed all his hisab kitab. He's on the brink of squaring off his balances. That is the time when Brahma decides or Chitragupta decides to give us the human form. So the fact that you and I are sitting here today and speaking means we have run the marathon of karma. We are in those we have run that 42-kilometer marathon. We are in the last 2 kilometers or last 1 kilometer now. And that's why we have got the human form. And God actually wants to help us in this last 1 kilometer because he knows we have run a very difficult race. And that's where Brahma said, I want to gift this human body with 3 powers, which I have not given to other animals. So Shiva and Vishnu said, what 3 powers do you want to give the human body? He said, I'll give the human body Vani, meaning the ability to speak. I will give the human body Buddhi, meaning the ability to think. With Buddhi, we know what is right, what is wrong. The kind of brain that we have, no other animal has. And that brain actually helps us identify between good and bad. And the third power that he wanted to give man, the human body, was Paramatma, or that divine power which is there within gods. So what is Paramatma? Paramatma is nothing but a manifestation of Brahman. When Brahman created Brahma, Vishnu and Mahesh, 3 beams of light emanated out of Brahman. And those beams of light created Brahma, Vishnu and Mahesh. So Paramatma in a nutshell, if I have to explain it very simplistically, means nothing but a small element of Brahman, which has that divine power to do anything and everything. That Brahman has got that Tathastu power. When Shiva touches a stone and just thinks that this stone should become gold, it translates into gold. He's got that kind of a power. That same power, that power is coming out of the Paramatma which is existing within Shiva. So that same Paramatma which was there in Brahma, Vishnu and Mahesh, Brahma wanted to put it into the human body as well. Meaning, in a nutshell, making humans as powerful as Brahma, Vishnu and Mahesh with Tathastu power. So that's where Shiva and Vishnu took a back foot. They went on the back foot. They said, sorry, you give buddhi and vani to them. So he gave buddhi, vani, and antarikshakti. Vani means the ability to speak. With buddhi and vani, we are fine. You don't give it to other animals, you give it to the human body. But Antarik Shakti or Paramatma, sorry, that we are not agreeable. We can't give away that power of ours to man, to the human body, because if we do that, there are two problems here. One, human body will become as powerful as us. That's number one. We will lose our relevance. And second, we are gods. We know how to properly use that power. If you give it to a human body, they are not as liberated or as enlightened as us. They are going to misuse that power more than use it. If you give indiscriminate power to man, he will misuse it and not use it. And why are you giving these three powers? Because you want to help man to attain salvation. कि एक बार ह्यूमन बॉडी में जीवात्मा घुस गया तो जल्द से जल्द उसे salvation मिल जाए. That is your goal. That's why you want to give buddhi and vani to the human body. So if you give this antarik shakti or paramatma to the human body, this will not work as an enabler. It will rather work as a negative factor. It will take him away from salvation. It will not take him towards salvation. He will do more wrong deeds or bad deeds with that power than good deeds. और अगर bad deeds करेगा तो he will move away from salvation. He will not move towards salvation. So that's why we are not in agreement. Third power, sorry, you can't give. Paramatma you can't give. You can give the buddhi and vani. We are fine with that. So now this was an ego issue, ego clash. So that's where they decided to go to Lord Krishna for arbitration.
Okay, I'm sorry,
Krishna
I'll
is the
interrupt you over here. I'm really sorry. But a technical question.
Yes.
Krishna was an incarnation of Vishnu.
Vishnu, that's right.
And Krishna came during the Mahabharata.
Yes.
So that's when humans were already created, no?
Krishna came on earth during Mahabharata. Krishna
Achha.
existed since Brahma, Vishnu and Mahesh existed. He
Achha.
manifested as an avatar of Vishnu during the Mahabharata Yuga. He was always there. Again, there is also karma within gods.
Okay.
Like we have karma on earth, there is karma for gods as well, because of which certain gods who were actually junior gods became senior gods, like Krishna. Krishna was a creation of Brahma, Vishnu and Mahesh. In the scheme of things, he was not a primary creation of Brahman. He was a secondary creation of Brahman. Brahman created Vishnu and Vishnu created Krishna. But Krishna, by virtue of his deeds, both on earth as also in heaven, moved above the other gods. So he is sitting in the seventh lok of the seventh zone of heaven, which is known as Krishna lok. And in Krishna lok, only Krishna has got entry. No other god has got entry into Krishna. Forget his wife, mother, father, none of them. Even gods cannot go to Krishna lok. They have not yet reached that liberated stage where they can put their feet into Krishna lok. So Krishna has to step out of Krishna lok if he has to meet up with Brahma, Vishnu and Mahesh. So they went to Krishna. He stepped out of Krishna lok. And Krishna is a very, very balanced god. He is a typical diplomat, a person who can resolve difficult situations. So he now realized this is an ego war, Brahma on one side, where he is hell-bent upon giving these three powers to the human body, and Shiva and Vishnu have ganged up on the other side. मैं ब्रह्मा के फेवर में बोलूं तो वो दो भड़क जाएंगे और उनके फेवर में बोलूं तो ब्रह्मा भड़क जाएगा. So let me come to a midway situation solution. He said both of you are correct in terms of your thinking. Brahma is absolutely right to say he wants to give these three powers to the human body, क्योंकि ये तीन पावर आप ह्यूमन बॉडी को दे दोगे तो जीवात्मा बहुत इजीली अच्छे कर्म करके फटाफट अपना जर्नी खत्म कर लेगा ऑन अर्थ एंड ही विल कम बैक टू अस. बट एज राइटली सेड बाय शिवा एंड विष्णु एज वेल, कि अगर हम परमात्मा को इस तरह से डाल दे ह्यूमन बॉडी में कि वो कुछ भी कर ले वो पावर के साथ, इनफाइनाइट अगर हम पावर उसको दे दे, then man is more likely to misuse it than use it. So both have merit in what you are saying. So एक काम करते हैं, हम परमात्मा को डालते हैं ह्यूमंस में, बट उसमें एक लिमिट डाल देते हैं, उसको फाइनाइट बना देते हैं, इनफाइनाइट नहीं रखते. So for example, when an Ola or an Uber driver is given a car, there is a speed limit of 80 also put in the car. So his car can't be driven beyond 80 kilometers per hour, even if he wants. Otherwise, any car can go up till 250, 300 kilometers per hour also. So this was something like that. We will give the Paramatma, but a limited version of Paramatma, not the unlimited version. So then they said, what do you mean by limited version? He said, you have created this game of karma, right? So we will put this power in man in such a way that if a man is destined, so whatever the person, the human being is destined in a particular birth, is already preordained to a great extent by his karma in the prior births. You are just sending him because he is yet to square off his account. So you know what sufferings and what good things he is going to undergo in that particular birth before he is born. So what we will do, we will give this power in such a way that he can only achieve what he is destined to achieve in that particular birth using this power. So if he exploits this power, उसका जो भी भोग है उस जन्म में, पॉजिटिव भोग है उस जन्म में, वो सब उसको मिल जाएगा ये पावर को यूज करके. But if he tries to go beyond his bhog in that janam, so taking a very simple example, let's say in this birth I am destined to have 5 crores rupees of wealth in terms of my financial standing. That is what I will be worth, let's assume, in this particular birth. How much ever I try to apply that Paramatma within me to go beyond 5 crores on the wealth front, I will not be able to go beyond 5 crores. But yes, if I use that Paramatma within me properly, I will definitely reach 5 crores in this particular birth. And that 5 crores which is destined is also not going to come easy to me. It's not like I sit on my bed, go to sleep and because ऐसे भी 5 करोड़ आने वाला है ये जन्म में, तो मुझे कुछ मेहनत करने की जरूरत ही नहीं, 5 करोड़ तो अपने आप मेरे पास आ जाएगा. नहीं, जब आप मेहनत करोगे और जब आप उस परमात्मा को राइटफुली यूज करोगे, तभी जाके आपको 5 करोड़ रुपए इस जन्म में मिलेंगे. नहीं तो नहीं मिलेगा, नहीं तो 2 करोड़ मिलेगा, 1 करोड़ मिलेगा, 50 लाख रुपया मिलेगा. सो योर karmic bhog of positive things is also subject to the efforts you have taken in that birth to attain them and how you have used that Paramatma within you to attain them. So if you are a negative thinker, if you are not adequately using that Paramatma within you, or you are not working hard adequately towards your goal, you may not attain what you were otherwise destined to attain in that particular birth. You may attain lesser. Like for example, I am a CA, you are trying to become a CA. Today, if you just give up your studies, you are probably destined to be a CA in this birth. But if you give up your studies and say, sorry, I will not study. मुझे तो ऐसे भी CA बनना है, मेरे भाग्य में CA बनना लिखा हुआ है. Let's say somehow you have preempted your भाग्य and you say मेरे को तो ऐसे भी CA बनना है, तो पढ़ाई नहीं करूंगा, मैं ऐसे ही जाके एग्जाम लिख दूंगा और मैं CA बन जाऊंगा. You will not be a CA until and unless you do that karma, that hard work which is required to become a CA. You will not become a CA till you are destined to become, unless until you put in the hard work, you will not become a CA even if you are destined to become one. And if you are destined to be only a CA and not do your MBA thereafter, तुम जो मर्जी कर लो, परमात्मा यूज कर लो, आप MBA नहीं बन पाओगे इस जन्म में. So that Paramatma within us, yes, it helps us to achieve what we want in our life, or achieve what, rather I would put it as achieve what was destined in our life, but only if we are working hard towards our goal and we are using that Paramatma properly. If we misuse that Paramatma or do not work as hard as we were required to work, we will get lesser than what we were destined. And whatever less bhog we have in this janam will move to our next janam. Will get pushed forward. So Krishna had a very valid point. He said, let's not make it easy for man. Let's give him good things, but only when he earns for it. And we will put a limiting cap to this particular power. We will not make it infinite. अगर infinite होता मेरे अंदर परमात्मा, तो 5 करोड़ क्या 500 करोड़ भी मैं पा लेता, 5000 करोड़ भी मैं पा लेता, 50,000 करोड़ भी मैं पा लेता इसी जन्म में. But because it is finite, it is giving me bhog only to the extent of 5 crores. So now Krishna came up with a wonderful solution which satisfied everybody, satisfied everybody's ego, and at the same time it was in sync with the philosophy of karma. Giving infinite power means playing with karma. God wanted those jivatmas to do karma and decide how soon they are going to come back. Now, if you give them an infinite power, suddenly you are deciding for them. You are not letting their actions decide. So Krishna ensured that he's letting it remain in the hands of the jivatmas and their deeds by making this power limited. कि हम इसको limited बना देंगे और every human soul के अंदर, human body के अंदर, along with the jivatma, we will push this power. And this is given in the Bhagavad Gita as well, not only in the Puran from where I am referring this to. It's also found in the Bhagavad Gita that every human body is born with two souls. One is the atomic soul or the jivatma, which is his atma, and one is the paramatma or the super soul, that element of God which has been inserted into us. Bhagavad Gita calls it paramatma. Science calls it the subconscious mind or the inner self. There are different names given to it. Different people call it with different names. Subconscious mind, inner self, willpower, the power to do things, positive thinking, assertive thinking. ये सब अलग अलग नाम दे दिया है उस power को. But net, that power is nothing but that element of God which is there within us, which if we use properly, we can attain all the joy and all the happiness that is destined in this particular birth for us. It's an enabler, that particular power, but a limited enabler. So now with this, so now Krishna had given a balanced answer कि परमात्मा डाल दो, but उसको limit कर दो, उसको infinite मत रखो. Man should not be able to achieve infinite things with that power. He should only be able to achieve what is destined in that particular birth using that power. All happy. This power was inserted into the human body. So it was decided कि जब भी एक जीवात्मा human body में जन्म लेके अर्थ पे आएगा, उसको ये पावर भी हमें दे देना है. ये थ्री पावर्स, बुद्धि, वाणी एंड दिस परमात्मा, लिमिटेड परमात्मा विद इन द सोल. From that day, the philosophy started. Now, 10-15,000 years after Homo sapiens evolved, Shiva, Brahma, and Vishnu again went to Krishna. They said, now we have come up with another challenge. हमने ह्यूमन बॉडी को बुद्धि, वाणी और ये परमात्मा, तीन चीजें देकर हमने उनको भेजा. अनफॉर्चुनेटली बुद्धि और वाणी तो सब लोग यूज कर रहे हैं. एवरी ह्यूमन बीइंग इज यूजिंग बुद्धि एंड वाणी. बट ये जो परमात्मा अंदर है, पॉजिटिव थिंकिंग जिसको हम बोलते हैं, अदरवाइज वो कोई भी ह्यूमन बीइंग यूज ही नहीं कर रहा है वो परमात्मा को जो अंदर छुपा हुआ है उसके. सो कृष्णा सेड दैट्स राइट, ह्यूमन बीइंग्स विल नॉट यूज दैट परमात्मा. द रीजन इज ह्यूमन बीइंग्स को जो दिखता है वो बिकता है. इफ दे सी समथिंग, दैट्स वेयर दे विल बिलीव इट एंड दे विल फॉलो इट. आज वो जो अंदर घुसा हुआ है, उनके अंदर परमात्मा जो पावर है, दैट डिवाइन फोर्स इज देयर. ह्यूमन बीइंग्स आर नॉट एबल टू सी इट. नहीं दिख रहा है तो थोड़ी उसको यूज करने वाले. तुम जो मर्जी कर लो, वो लोग यूज नहीं करेंगे. सो देन ब्रह्मा विष्णु महेश सर क्या करें? हाउ डू वी मेक ह्यूमन बीइंग्स यूज दैट पावर व्हिच इज देयर विद इन देम? ही सेड वेरी सिंपल. Using that power is just about having faith that yes, that Paramatma is within me. Just that belief कि हाँ मेरे अंदर परमात्मा है, मेरे अंदर ब्रह्मन का अंश है जो ब्रह्मा विष्णु और महेश ने डाला. एंड विद दैट पावर, विद दैट विल पावर, आई कैन अचीव थिंग्स इन लाइफ. दैट बिलीफ इज व्हाट इट टेक्स टू यूज दैट पावर. सो कृष्णा सेड कि उनको वो बिलीफ है ही नहीं वो पावर में, क्योंकि वो पावर दिख नहीं रहा है. एक काम करते हैं, उनको हम पावर दिखा देते हैं. उनको एक कुछ फिजिकल टूल दे देते हैं, गैजेट दे देते हैं, जिसमें उन्हें वो पावर दिखेगा. लेट्स गिव देम आइडल्स. Let's create an idol of Krishna. Let's create a Shivling, which is a kind of replica of Lord Shiva. Let's create an idol of Ganpati. Let's create an idol of all the gods and goddesses and give it to them. When the person will stand in front of the idol, he will visualize that idol as that Paramatma, as that God, because now he's seeing something tangible. And with all faith, with all belief, he will surrender before the idol. And that belief is what is required for us to make man use the Paramatma within. हम उसको परमात्मा अंदर नहीं दिखा पाए, चलो बाहर पुतलों में उसको परमात्मा दिखा देते हैं. एंड ऑफ द डे गोल इज अबाउट हैविंग बिलीफ इन द पावर. तो चाहे वो बाहर के पावर में करे या अंदर के पावर में करे, डजंट मैटर. It's just about ensuring that we are effectuating this easily for man. And that's where idol worship came into Hinduism. The Vedas never propagated idol worship. And in fact, that also answers the reason why we get different results in different temples. There are certain temples which are considered, or churches or mosques which are considered very very sacred, कि
Hmm.
वहां पे जाओ और प्रार्थना करो तो आपका मनोकामना पूर्ण हो जाएगा. Like for example in Mumbai, you have the Siddhivinayak temple
Hmm.
where lakhs of people throng, crores of people throng every year to Siddhivinayak temple, and we get results. When I remember during my CA final also, I walked to Siddhivinayak 9 times from my residence after I cleared my CA final with flying colors. And yes, Siddhivinayak has never disappointed me. Now, I have a simple question here. There is Ganpati in the Siddhivinayak temple. A similar Ganpati also sits in the local temple below my house, and Ganpati remains Ganpati.
Hmm.
So how is the temple below my house, which is visited by 50 visitors a day, any different from Siddhivinayak, which is visited by a few lakh people every day? What's the difference? Why my local temple has lesser followers and that the Siddhivinayak temple has more followers? And why do so? The answer to that question is I get better results in Siddhivinayak than the local temple.
Hmm.
लोकल टेम्पल में छोटे मोटे मानता करते हैं, सिद्धि विनायक में बड़ा मानता करते हैं. नाउ व्हाई बड़ा मानता करता हूं मैं सिद्धि विनायक में जाके?
वहाँ पे बिलीफ
क्योंकि
ज्यादा
मुझे पता है, हाँ मुझे पता है मेरे पहले करोड़ों का फायदा हुआ है उस मंदिर में. इट
है.
इज ट्राइड एंड टेस्टेड.
हाँ.
Crores of testimonies of Siddhivinayak are available. So when I'm entering Siddhivinayak temple, I'm entering with that belief system कि boss मेरे पहले करोड़ों का इधर आके फायदा हुआ है मानता लेके, हाउ इज इट पॉसिबल कि मेरा फायदा नहीं होगा? देयर
Hmm.
इज नो क्वेश्चन कि मुझे ये चीज नहीं मिलेगा अगर मैं सिद्धिविनायक में आकर प्रार्थना करूं. दैट बिलीफ सिस्टम इज व्हाट इज हेल्पिंग मी अचीव results out of the Siddhivinayak temple. I don't have that same belief system when I'm going into the local Ganpati temple. अरे this temple is visited by 50 people, this is a small temple, चलो idol है तो नमन कर लेते हैं. बट अगर मानता लेना है तो मुझे सिद्धिविनायक टेम्पल में ही जाना है. It's our belief system while we walk into a house, into a temple, which determines the possible results out of what we have asked for in the temple. Nothing more, nothing less. So with all this philosophy, we were sent on earth, we were dispatched on earth. You and I, all of us, we took different life forms. We started as unicellular organisms. Then we took birth as multicellular organisms. We were plants, we were different kinds of animals. We lived through the whole cycle of evolution, one by one, over millions and crores of years. And finally now, our karmas, all our recording has happened in the ERP, where Chitragupta is the account keeper. Finally, now we have reached the end of the marathon. It's a 42-kilometer proper marathon. We have covered 40 kilometers. And that's where God has given us birth in the human form. So that we use our buddhi, vani, and antarik shakti and finish off this race very quickly and go and attain salvation or moksha and remain with God till the end of this day, till the end of this day of Brahma. Because at the end of this day of Brahma, he is going to destroy everything.
Hmm.
Again, there will be a lull, there will be a new creation tomorrow morning. So God is actually helping us. The creators are actually helping us to ensure that we are reaching him as fast as possible by giving us this human body. And that explains why you and I have taken birth as humans, why we were born, why we took so many births, and finally we are like the most promoted people in the organization. We have almost reached the top now. There are people, unicellular, multicellular, Jivatmas, who have just started their journey. We have reached the top. We have attained the top by virtue of our good karmas in the prior births. We are now almost there. We have squared off both these accounts. One is our account of the deeds that we have done, good and bad deeds, and one is our karmic relationship with other Jivatmas when we did our deeds. Both the accounts are now near about to get squared off, and that's where we have taken birth as humans. So that answers your question, why we are born as humans, why human beings.
Okay, so the next question we get is what is our purpose? But a safe answer to that would be the purpose is to spend maximum amount of the day with the creator himself.
Correct. So the first question answers, the answer to the first question gives us an answer to the second
question.
This is a Maya Jal. Where we are is a Maya Jal. We are supposed to finish this off quickly and go there.
Now, the most popular philosophy in the Bhagavad Gita is कर्म कर फल की चिंता मत कर. The problem with this philosophy is that it is थोड़ा impractical when it comes to not just business but life. कि चलो अगर मैं वर्कआउट करता हूँ या अगर मैं एक एथलीट हूँ तो कर्म कर फल की चिंता मत कर, ईदर वे तुम ग्रो तो करने वाले हो. बट अगर मैं एक बिजनेसमैन हूँ, अगर मैं एक स्टूडेंट हूँ, तो कर्म कर फल की चिंता मत कर डजंट अप्लाई, क्योंकि मैं भाग ही फल के पीछे रहा हूँ. तो हाउ डू यू प्रैक्टिस दिस फिलॉसफी इन रियल लाइफ?
So, this particular statement of Lord Krishna has been highly misquoted by people the world over. What we have picked up is just this one saying in isolation from the Bhagavad Gita, but without realizing or recognizing what other things have been specified in the Bhagavad Gita. When Krishna says karam kar fal ki chinta mat kar, what he is referring to is that as a jivatma we are engineered to do karam. A jivatma can't exist without karam. Karam is our existence. By virtue of karam, we are reaching God as fast as possible, completing our journey on earth as fast as possible, and spending maximum time with our creator. So karam is synonymous to human beings. When you append emotion to your karam, when you append expectations to your karam, you will not be able to do your karam well. बिकॉज यू आर नाउ फोकस्ड अबाउट द रिजल्ट. मुझे फर्स्ट रैंक चाहिए सीए फाइनल में. अगर वो आपका गोल बन जाए फॉर स्टडिंग फॉर सीए, then you are putting excessive pressure. You have now brought in expectation into your karam. What was your karam? Your karam simply was studying your CA final ka curriculum, writing that exam and becoming a chartered accountant. Correct? Whether you are a first rank chartered accountant or whether you are a 401 out of 800 wala chartered accountant, just barely passing, doesn't matter. In life, I know first rank holders who have goofed up, and I know people who have flunked several times and achieved a lot of success in life. So effectively, when you are doing your CA, your goal is to become a chartered accountant. हाँ, अगर CA में rank आ जाए, first rank आ जाए, that is nothing but an icing on the cake. But the moment we cast expectations on us कि नहीं मुझे तो फर्स्ट 10 में ही रैंक चाहिए, मुझे सिंगल डिजिट रैंक चाहिए, मुझे सिर्फ सीए नहीं बनना है, सिंगल डिजिट रैंक लाना है, that expectation is going to put extra burden, extra pressure, extra stress on you, and it may actually dissuade you from your goal. I know so many CA final students who are under depression, who are taking medication before their exam because they can't cope up with the pressure they have passed on themselves. Typically people who have got ranks in the foundation and inter, and now it's like कि अभी फाइनल में तो रैंक लाना ही पड़ेगा. फाउंडेशन और इंटर में अगर रैंक आ गया, फाइनल में रैंक कैसे नहीं आएगा? They are casting so much expectation on themselves that they are now unable to cope up with that particular situation and they are losing their mental balance. So we are just trying to look at this statement in isolation. What he's trying to say is very sensible. He's saying just do your deeds, put in your best in everything that you do. Don't put anything less than your best and leave the rest to your karma. क्योंकि आज मैं जब कोई कर्म कर रहा हूं, मैं खुद को आजमा रहा हूं, मुझे नहीं पता कि मैं उस पर्टिकुलर सिचुएशन में सक्सेसफुल होऊंगा कि नहीं होऊंगा. Let's take an example. A CA final student is giving his CA final. I know one case. This poor girl, she gave CA final 9 times. She became a lawyer in that process. She did her law parallelly and very good student. But unfortunately, she just could not clear her CA final. She did her deeds, but probably karmically, she was not destined to become a chartered accountant in this birth. And she was a good student. She was a ranker in her school. 10th standard, she was a board ranker. Being such a good student, if you are not able to crack CA final, it is bizarre, right? It's like कैसे नहीं हुआ ये? सबका हो गया, इसका कैसे नहीं हुआ? How is it possible? But she was just not destined. Not that she was not working hard. Not that she did not put in those hours. Of course she did. But unfortunately, she was not. This was not meant to happen for her. So this girl, when she started, all the odds were in her favor कि तुम इतनी अच्छी स्टूडेंट हो, तुमको तो सीए बनना ही है. बट क्योंकि उसके कर्म के भोग में ही वो सीए बनना शायद लिखा नहीं था, she never could make it. So that's why when you are doing your karma, you are just आजमाविंग yourself कि चलो ट्राई करके देख लेते हैं. अगर वो चीज लग गया, मेहनत करके फल मिल गया, वंडरफुल, वी वर डेस्टाइन्ड फॉर दैट पर्टिकुलर फल. अगर कर्म करके फल नहीं मिला, नो प्रॉब्लम, थैंक यू गॉड, दिस वाज नॉट डेस्टाइन्ड इन माय लाइफ. शायद लॉयर मेरे लिए बनना मेरा डेस्टिनी है. शायद लॉयर बन के आई विल बिकम द बेस्ट क्रिमिनल लॉयर और बेस्ट कॉर्पोरेट लॉयर in the country. That's why you did not make me a chartered accountant. No problem. I move ahead in life. So that is what Krishna meant. Ki if you append expectation to your karam, if you don't get what you are fighting for, you will get into depression. You will lose out in life thereafter, and you will ruin the other good things which are meant to come into your life. So that one message has a thousand reasons. He's given you the bottom line, but if you dissect it, there are so many different ways of looking at that particular statement. And he has also said, do good deeds. He has not just said karam karo. अच्छे कर्म करना बहुत जरूरी है. That this is what the Bhagavad Gita says. और जहाँ पे अच्छे कर्म नहीं कर सकते, बुरा कर्म मत करो. One is doing good deeds अपने तरफ से, and one is not being able to do a good deed, but not doing a bad deed is also doing a good deed. Just remaining where you are. Say for example, a person comes to you for financial help and you are not competent to help him financially. आपके पास पैसे नहीं है उसको हेल्प करने के लिए. तो आपने, अगर आप उसको पैसे दे देते वो सिचुएशन में, आपने कुछ अच्छे कर्म कर लिए होते क्योंकि आपके पास पैसे थे तो आपने दे दिए. बट आपके पास आज पैसे नहीं है तो आप वो अच्छा कर्म नहीं कर पा रहे. In that situation, what people do today is, अरे he will pick up the phone and call up 5 of his friends. अरे वो X आया था मेरे पास पैसे लेने के लिए, तेरे पास भी आएगा ना, पैसे मत देना, ये बहुत बहुत पैसे मार लेता है, पैसे रिटर्न नहीं करता है. I did a kandi. I ensured that 5 of my other friends also don't give him the money. That was bad karma in that particular situation. So where you can't do good, at least ensure you are being neutral. You are praying for him, you are wishing good for him, and not doing a bad deed in that situation. So that is also another learning from the Bhagavad Gita, which is generally not spoken about. कि अच्छे कर्म करने हैं जहां हम कर सकते हैं, जहां नहीं कर सकते, pray for him and ensure that you are supporting his cause in whatever way you can. You are not doing bad karma in that situation. Right?
Okay, another question that we get, and this revolves around a lot of couples, is that if you look at Indian mythology, Hinduism in per sense, the most favorable couple story or the most favorable love story is Radhe Krishna का love story. मतलब उनसे लेजेंड लव स्टोरी और किसी का हिंदू माइथोलॉजी में है ही नहीं. तो उनकी स्टोरी का ऐसा क्या सीक्रेट है? हाउ डू यू डिस्क्राइब इट कि इतना लेजेंड लव स्टोरी कैसे है कि कृष्ण की लाइफ में बहुत सारे आए, मीरा जी भी आए, और उनकी लाइफ में एक्चुअली राधा जी के साथ तो उनकी शादी भी नहीं हुई, बट स्टिल राधे कृष्ण इज द ओनली वन दैट इज नोन और द मोस्ट फेमस. सो व्हाट इज दैट?
So every avatar or incarnation of God has set several good principles on earth. They came to teach mankind good things. When an incarnation came in, or when an avatar came in, it was not just with a view to prove the existence of God. Proving existence of God was just one of the many reasons why these avatars and incarnations would come in. They would set principles. They would set karmic principles during their journey on earth. So when we talk about Radha and Krishna, it's not only about love. It's about purity in love. The kind of love they had. When we talk about Meera Krishna also, it is about purity. So today, if we are living in an era, in fact, there is something here to do with even the era that we are living in. So many people ask me this question. I want to love my wife like Krishna loved Radha, or Radha loved Krishna. How do I build that kind of love or equation between me and my wife? The answer to this question is you can't build that equation, क्योंकि वो कृष्णा और राधा थे और हम इंसान हैं. वो परमात्मा थे, हम जीवात्मा हैं. So number one, that's that they are different from us. They were meant to be who they were. We are meant to be who we are. Secondly, they were existing in an era or in a yuga which was very different from our current yuga. Currently, we are living in the Kali Yuga, right? The yuga before this was the Dwapara Yuga, the Mahabharata era, when Krishna had actually come on earth. That era. So all the three eras before this particular Kali Yuga were ruled by gods. So you have the Satya Yuga, you have the Treta Yuga, then you have the Dwapar Yuga, and then you have the Kali Yuga. That is the cycle of yugas. The first three yugas were ruled by gods. And this yuga that we are living in, it started in 3102 BC. Typically the year in which Krishna left his body on earth. 3102 BC was when Krishna left the earth. That is when Kali Yuga started. And Kali Yuga is slated to end after 4.27 lakh years. So we are still 4.27 lakh years away from the end of Kali Yuga. Kali Yuga is ruled by Kali. Now Kali we think is Ma Kali. No, it's not Ma Kali, the goddess. Kali here is a demon named Kali. So we are now living in an era which is ruled by demons. The earlier three yugas were ruled by gods. And when we move from good towards bad, an era which is ruled by demons, of course, there will be degradation. So, in fact, I put a very detailed video on my YouTube channel, Karma Cosmos Talks, on what is Kali Yuga and why we as human beings are suffering so much today in Kali Yuga, why life has suddenly become so difficult while we live in Kali Yuga. So we are today living in an era which is not as pure as the era in which Radha and Krishna were living. Secondly, we are not as pure as Radha and Krishna. So attaining that kind of a relationship or an equation, yes, is not possible for you and me. But having said that, these visionary gods and goddesses have left us an example. कि अगर प्यार करना है, this is the purity which is expected in your love. अगर deeds करने हैं, this is every mythological character in that sense. Even for that matter, Shravan Kumar, for example, the story of Shravan Kumar, where he used to take his blind parents, he was taking his blind parents across the country, and he was shot by that arrow from Dashrath. So that legend also somewhere teaches us the principle of माँ बाप की सेवा करना है तो ऐसे करना है. So Krishna Radha was an epitome of love. That's how mythology played them. So that's why they were so visionary, and visionaries are created only once. They can't be replicated, they can be followed. So our goal should be to try and be as pure in our love as possible. In fact, it's a joke to be talking about Radha and Krishna today in the age where I see live-in couples not getting bound by the concept of marriage today. Bodily attraction. In fact, that's because of Kali Yuga. So if you see my video on Kali Yuga, you will understand it's thousands of years back these were predicted. कि Kali Yuga में ये होने वाला है. So today the lust for the body is what is the reason for survival for most people. The sanctity of marriage has been lost. We have live-in relationships. We have multiple flings people are having today. And being a counselor, I come across so many of them. So I see the dark side of people's life as a counselor. So honestly, while I answer this question academically to you, I feel it's a joke to be thinking about the love which Radha and Krishna had in this particular era. It's difficult, if not impossible, to attain that. But yes, our goal should be to try and be as pure and look at love with as much sanctity as possible.
I mean, as you said ना कि अगर कर्म में लिखा होगा कि आपको राधे कृष्ण वाला प्यार नसीब होगा तो आपको हो जाएगा, but at least you try for it, at least you put in efforts with your partner for that.
Exactly. So एक है आपके कर्म में लिखा होना और दूसरा है आप क्या कर रहे हो उसको उस अंजाम तक पहुंचने के लिए. Are you using that Paramatma within you, your belief system within you? There is always that evil within us and there is that good within us. The evil within us pushes us towards wrong things. The good within us holds us back. Metaphysics calls it as the conscious mind and the subconscious mind. The conscious mind is the mind which is the evil mind, which is the mind with which you think. That's the mind which feeds you with all different kinds of bad things. And then you have the subconscious mind or the Paramatma within you, which pushes you towards good things. How much of that Paramatma or subconscious mind are you using actually determines how much successful you will be in your life vis-a-vis your karmic vow. So it's more about using that subconscious mind within us, that Paramatma within us as much as possible to remain as clean as possible and give and try for our best to attain that Radha Krishna kind of a relationship. Baki to kismat.
I have a different theory on the conscious and subconscious. I don't think that they are contradictory. What I think is that they are in sync. As in, the subconscious is the visionary part of you. The subconscious holds out कि भैया ये करना है, but the subconscious doesn't know कि कैसे करना है. और ये जो कैसे करने वाला आंसर है is the conscious mind that will give to you. So if you set your vision and set certain constraints with that vision, जहाँ पे आपका कर्म आ जाता है. For example, मेरे को मिलियनेयर बनना है, but मेरे constraints ये है, and the number one constraint is इस idea को give up नहीं कर सकते. So then your logical mind will be like कि अच्छा कैसे बनना है. First step give up नहीं, अच्छा give up तो कर नहीं सकते क्योंकि constraint है. तो then it will start thinking कि कैसे बनना है. I have that theory from
So
personal
I'll
experience.
just give you a different perspective towards what you said. In fact, the discussion on conscious or subconscious mind should be a subject matter of some other podcast, because it's an ocean in itself. And I did not want to venture into that in this podcast because we have limited time and limited questions. But now that we have raised this question, let's get this right. The conscious mind is the mind with which we think and the mind with which we are constantly talking. The conscious mind is extremely conservative. The conscious mind is extremely rational. And the conscious mind is extremely solution oriented. The subconscious mind, on the other hand, is our inner self, or that Paramatma within us, which is very, very expansive, because the concept of subconscious mind or Paramatma originates out of something which is infinite. What we have as Paramatma within us is a finite version of an infinite concept, right? Now, when you come out of an infinite concept, you are very gutsy. It's like Virendra Sehwag in his batting versus Ajinkya Rahane or Rahul Dravid in his batting. Rahul Dravid would be a very conservative kind of a player, and Virendra Sehwag would be a very rash kind of a player, because he knew that this is my game. This is possible. I can hit a six when I'm on 295 and go to 301 with a six, facing Shoaib Akhtar in front of me. That was his confidence. He knew I can do it. Or out हुए 295 पे तो भी क्या? That's his mindset. छक्का मार के आज today he will always be remembered for 200 years year after for that six which he hit to go to his triple hundred. So likewise, the subconscious mind is a more superior concept than the conscious mind. The conscious mind lives within its limitation because it has always been a limited concept. Subconscious mind is a finite concept created out of an infinite zone. Now, let's take a particular situation and let's see how the conscious mind and the subconscious mind would handle it. Let's take a simple hypothetical example. Let's say I am a chartered accountant. I have just qualified. I have a job which is giving me 50,000 rupees a month salary, which is like 6 lakhs rupees per annum. And I set a target for myself. Next 3 years में मुझे BMW गाड़ी खरीदना है. I want a BMW car in my car parking. ठीक है. Now whether BMW मेरे भोग में है कि नहीं वो दूसरी बात है. अगर भोग में नहीं है तो मैं जो भी पॉजिटिव थिंकिंग कर लूं, प्लानिंग कर लूं, वो BMW नहीं आने वाला अगर मेरे भोग में ही नहीं है इस जन्म में. So let's assume a situation कि BMW मेरे भोग में है, मेरे इस जन्म के कर्म में BMW लिखा हुआ है. And now I have cast this expectation कि 3 साल में मुझे BMW मेरे कार पार्किंग में लाना है. Now any logical mind will say तेरा पगार 6 लाख रुपया साल का है, 6 लाख रुपया तेरा टेक होम है. 6 lakhs में से you are spending maybe 2 lakhs of rupees in your living expenses and food. So net you are ending up saving 4 lakhs rupees per annum. आज तेरा 6 लाख है, अगले साल 6.5 लाख होगा, फिर 7 लाख होगा, 50,000 लाख रुपया तेरा सैलरी बढ़ेगा every year. It's not going to double or triple every year. So by the end of year 3, at best you will be at a package of 9.5 or 10 lakhs of rupees, and assuming a saving of 4 to 5 lakhs rupees a month, you will have approximately 14 lakhs rupees of principal in your bank account in terms of savings. 14 लाख रुपए में भैया तू कभी BMW गाड़ी खरीद सकता है? Not possible. How do you buy a BMW? Second hand भी नहीं आएगा 14 लाख रुपए में. So your idea of buying a BMW in 3 years with this salary scale is illogical. Give it up. Rather target a Honda City instead of a BMW. This is the conscious mind. The conscious mind was very logical here. He did a extrapolation of your earnings for the next 3 years. And he said, sorry, you don't have the worth of having a crore of rupees or 80 lakhs of rupees in your bank account so that you can spend some amount of it to buy a BMW. तेरे पास projection ही नहीं है उसका, तो उसको टारगेट करके ही कोई मतलब नहीं है. That is the conscious mind. It's very logical, very rational, and it will drive you towards the safest or the most conservative situation. इसी को अगर मैं सबकॉन्शियस माइंड के माइंडसेट से देखूं, नजरिए से देखूं, सबकॉन्शियस माइंड है परमात्मा. उसे पता है कि आपका इस जन्म में भोग है BMW का. परमात्मा knows that you have the भोग of BMW. He will process the query differently. He will process the situation differently. He will say, okay, मानव तेरे को BMW लेना है ना, एक काम कर. First thing is quit this job. ये तेरे को 50,000 रुपया साल का दे रहा है, महीने का दे रहा है, लेट्स टेक यू टेक अप दिस जॉब इन इक्विटी रिसर्च, यहाँ पे एक ओपनिंग है इस ऑर्गेनाइजेशन में, वहाँ पे अच्छा बंदा था छोड़ के चला गया है, and you are very good in your FM, so they may be seeing your final का marks in FM, they may just give you this job. ये जॉब अगर तेरे को मिल गया, you will draw a salary of 1.5 lakhs of rupees per month. उनका starting package 1.5 लाख रुपए का है. Please go and give an interview there. This is how he guides you. You go and give the interview, and as luck would have had it, because you are karmically destined to have a BMW in your car park in the next 3 years, you get that particular job. So now suddenly you have a package of 18 lakhs rupees per annum as a fresh chartered accountant instead of 6 lakhs rupees, which otherwise you would have taken as per the conventional path. 18 लाख में से आपने 2 लाख रुपया खर्च किया, 16 लाख रुपया साल का सेव किया. 3 years yields you 48 lakhs of rupees. At the end of year 1, your subconscious mind guides you and says, अरे भाई तू पागल है क्या, बैंक के एफडी में पैसा रखा है, ये 16 लाख निकाल और इसको ये कंपनी के शेयर में लगा. ये कंपनी का शेयर अगले 2 साल में ट्रिपल होने वाला है. 2 साल में तुझे 16 लाख डालेगा, 48-50 लाख रुपया तू उसमें से निकालेगा. प्लीज इन्वेस्ट इन शेयर्स ऑफ दिस कंपनी. 1 साल का पूरा सेविंग डाल दे इसमें. You just pick up those 16 lakhs, put it into that particular company, and at the end of 3 years, 2 years, you bring out 50 lakhs out of. So now suddenly you have got 70 or 80 lakhs in your bank account. End of year 3, you have the BMW in your car park. So this is the approach difference between your conscious mind and subconscious mind. The subconscious mind knows no limits. The subconscious mind knows your worth in this lifetime. It knows what you are exactly destined for in this particular lifetime, and your subconscious mind will condition you towards that. The conscious mind, on the other hand, is conservative, defensive. It will not let you take too many risks, and it will keep you within the domains of limitations of rationality. So that's how these two minds work. Again, people who have made it big in life, if I look at the success story of a Steve Jobs or a Bill Gates or anybody else who has made it big in life, they did two things, or they had two things with them. One was the karmic destiny to make it big. That's the most important thing, कि तुम्हारा कर्म में लिखा है कि नहीं वो चीज. And second, अगर लिखा है, how well have you used your subconscious mind to attain that? People who are driven by their conscious mind will never be able to attain that kind of level in their life simply with their conscious mind. It has to be a healthy mix of the conscious and the subconscious. Subconscious को हम sixth sense के नाम से भी जानते हैं. In fact, there is a concept called sleeping over an issue, where when you have a difficult issue in front of you, you just need to start thinking about it and just go to sleep while you think about it. So you are letting your subconscious mind at night process that issue. Next day morning when you get up, you open your eyes, khatak, you will have the answer to your question. Karna hai ki nahi karna hai. That's called sleeping over the issue. I've got a YouTube video on that as well on my channel, Karma Cosmos.
I'll link it in the description.
Yes.
Okay.
Right. So ये बहुत अलग स्टोरी है. Let's not get into conscious subconscious, हम भटक जाएंगे.
क्योंकि मेरी बहुत सारी analogies भी है इसमें. So we'll have a different podcast on this topic as well. I think
exactly. It's an ocean in itself. Yeah.
But from what I attended, your lecture that I attended, your session that I attended, and from your channel, I've developed a certain analogy about the conscious and subconscious, and I use that for my own experiences, and it has worked well for me. So we'll discuss that in a podcast.
Surely. Yes.
So
What's the next question?
Last question for today we have is, as human beings, do we have the power to manifest or change our destiny? Or is everything preordained in itself?
Perfect. So this is the most important question I would want to answer. A beautiful question that you have asked me, and I'm thankful to you that you asked me this question. In fact, as a counselor, I come across several people who come to me, and generally people who are in difficult situations in life would go to a counselor. When life is hunky-dory, you will not visit a counselor. And along with counselors, they also make a beeline for astrologers, people who do palm reading, Vastu Shastra, Feng Shui. When things are right, you don't get astrology and numerology and gemology and Feng Shui into your life. When things go wrong, we start running about here and there. So this question often comes up from other people as well, that Surojit, if everything is preordained, then is it that I can't change my destiny? Whatever is destined to happen will surely happen, and I have no control over it. The answer to this question is a big fat no. Your destiny, to a great extent, to a reasonable extent, if not a great extent, can be maneuvered in this birth as well. In fact, what matters is now. What matters is this birth, not your past, not your future. Your past cannot be undone. What you have already done, you can't undo that now. You can't go back into the past and make amends. Your future, you don't know. What you know is your present. What is in your control is your present. And while astrology or palmistry, I have done research around all these kinds of predictive sciences. While all of them have their own standing, and yes, they can predict to a great extent, all of them are limited by the fact that they can only predict what was destined to happen in your life. They can't predict what you changed in this lifetime with your good karma in this lifetime in your prediction chart. I'll give you my own example. When I was born, my kundli was made by a very, very learned astrologer. In those days, you would have physical kundli. Nowadays, you have everything computerized. And I was supposed to die of a very serious disease at the age of 28. In fact, that astrologer was so confident of his prediction that he gave the number of months also, 28 years and so many months. This person will die of a serious ailment. Could be cancer, could be a heart attack, anything, any life-threatening serious ailment he will have, and he will die. Today I am, with God's grace, 42 years old. I am alive and sitting in front of you. This is not my ghost which is talking to you. So somewhere his prediction went wrong. Not only he, because now this was a kind of death knell for me. My parents showed that accordingly to several other astrologers of repute, and everybody confirmed what the first astrologer had said. Then they went to a palmist when I was 14 years old and showed my palm to the palmist. He said, 28 साल और इतने महीने नहीं, ये तो 26 साल की उम्र में मरने वाला है। उसके हाथों के लकीरों के हिसाब से तो और भी छोटा लाइफ है उसका. So he hardly has 12 years more to live. So that these were the predictions, and unfortunately, all of them were absolutely wrong because I'm still alive. Now that takes us to the question: was astrology wrong here then, or was palmistry wrong over here? I would not say they were wrong. They were right in terms of their prediction because they predicted what was destined to happen to me in this particular birth when I was born. My destiny was written at the time when I was born. The astrological predictions are at that moment when I was born. Again, there is a different philosophy around when should you do the astrology. When were you born? Were you born when you came out of your mother's womb? In which case that can today be doctored with a caesarean operation. Today people plan for the child. They decide the day, the murat when the child will come. According to me, that's not the time you should be taking for astrology purposes. The time for astrology purposes should actually be conceptualization of the sperm in the mother's womb. That is the time when you were born. A few number of days after the sperm gets fertilized, that's when life comes into that particular sperm. And that is given in our mythology. How to calculate that? In olden times, astrology used to happen basis the delivery date. They would do a backward working. They could tell exactly when the conceptualization happened to the last second, and basis that they would do the add up, and then they would do astrology. Today we do astrology basis the birth time. So the starting point itself is flawed. That's number one. Leaving that apart, yes, to some extent these predictive sciences are correct, but they can only predict what was destined at the time of my birth. How I changed my destiny in this birth, they can't predict. That is beyond anybody's prediction. So I'll give you an example, a simple example, and this example should wrap up our podcast. And it will give a lot of food for thought for people also to ruminate and try and figure out what did he say, what did he try to explain in this example. If people can understand this example, this can actually change many lives. So let's do a case study of this Jivatma called Surojit Ray. I am Surojit Ray sitting in front of you, my Jivatma. Let's assume for simplicity purposes that this is my second birth on earth एज अ ह्यूमन बीइंग, एज अ होमो सपाइन सपाइन। इससे पहले मेरा सिर्फ एक जन्म हुआ है ह्यूमन बीइंग के बॉडी शरीर में। ऑफ कोर्स नॉट, वी आर जस्ट डूइंग एन एनालिसिस टू कीप थिंग्स सिंपल। लेट्स अज्यूम दिस इज ऑल हाइपोथेटिकल, दिस इज नॉट अ रियल स्टोरी। तो समझ लीजिए मेरा दूसरा जन्म है। इससे पहले वाला जो मेरा जन्म था एज अ ह्यूमन बीइंग, in that particular birth I did a lot of good deeds. I also did one bad deed or one bad karma, and that was I murdered somebody else. I took the life of another human being. So the moment I did this murder in my prior birth, Chitragupt immediately makes the entry in my two accounts. वन अकाउंट इज माई डीड वाला अकाउंट, जहाँ पे डेबिट साइड में एंट्री चला गया कि सुरोजित के जीवात्मा ने इसको मर्डर किया, इस बंदे को मर्डर किया है। And the law of karma says what you give comes back to you. So if Surojit has murdered somebody, Surojit will also have to be murdered by somebody in this birth or his prior in his future births, so that he can offset this sin. So the punishment for the sin is also written immediately by Chitragupt along with the entry. So he wrote the entry of murder in my first account. He also wrote my punishment for that कि okay चलो इस जन्म में हम सुरजीत को मर्डर में नहीं मारेंगे, उसने किसी की मर्डर की, बट हम उसको इसी जन्म में सजा नहीं देंगे। वी विल, क्योंकि इस जन्म का मौत उसका ऑलरेडी निश्चित है फ्रॉम हिज अर्लियर जन्म। सो लेट्स नॉट चेंज दैट। अगले जन्म में इसकी भी हत्या होगी, इसको भी कोई मारेगा। एंड लेट्स से फॉर दिस बर्थ व्हिच आई हैव नाउ टेकन, my death has been destined in that earlier birth for the murder I did. He at the age of 34 years, 10 months, 22 days, 5 hours, 16 minutes, 5 seconds. After this period is over, Surojit will die in a road accident. He will be murdered by a truck driver. A truck driver, drunk truck driver, is going to take his car above his body. And Surojit will die in his next birth in a truck accident. In this accident. So in my prior birth itself, my death for this birth has been preordained. How I am going to die in this birth. So एक एंट्री आ गया मेरा वो नॉर्मल कर्मा अकाउंट में, दूसरा एंट्री आ गया मेरा उस बंदे के साथ जो अकाउंट है उसके अंदर। Okay, Surojit murdered this Jivatma. In future, this Jivatma will also have to do some harm to Surojit. It could either be in the form of murder, or it could be in the form of he traumatizing Surojit and making him Raja se rank bana dene wala, cheat karne wala, dhoka dene wala. Something he will do. Now that particular Jivatma in one of my future births to square off his account. Let's not get into that piece. Let's keep that piece aside कि मैंने उस बंदे के साथ क्या कार्मिक रिलेशनशिप बिल्ड किया। Let's just stick to the karma कि मैंने मर्डर किया और because of that murder इस जन्म में मेरी मौत निश्चित हो गई in a road accident, truck accident. Now मैंने जब इस जन्म में जन्म लिया, when I take birth in this body, in this lifetime, मुझे तो पता नहीं मैंने प्रायर जन्म में मर्डर किया है, क्या गुनाह किया है, क्या गलती किया है। What is there in my hands is only this birth, and till the time I am going to live in this birth. Now karma is so beautiful that before punishing you for every sin that you have committed, major sin that you have committed, it gives you not one, not two, but 3 chances to undo your prior sin. Because karma has been created by our mother, father. Our mother, God is our mother, father. They don't want us to suffer or they don't want to punish us, even if we have committed a mistake. आज जब बच्चा गलती करता है, माँ उसे forgive करती है. So God has also given us 3 chances to undo every major sin we have committed in our prior birth. It is we who turn blind to those opportunities. We don't latch on to those opportunities, and then that unfortunate event happens in our life. So this is one कि भगवान कभी हमको कर्मा के लिए, बुरे कर्मों के लिए पनिश नहीं करता जब तक he has not given us 3 chances for every bad sin that we have committed to undo them. And second, God always believes, or karma, Chitragupt always believes in rewarding you as quickly as possible for your good deeds and deferring your punishments over lifetimes. क्योंकि अगर आपको बहुत सारा पनिशमेंट एक ही बर्थ में दे दिया, then you will get frustrated. You may end up committing suicide. अगर 4 जन्मों का दुख एक जन्म में आ गया, वो आदमी बचेगा ही नहीं, वो एक बिल्डिंग के ऊपर जाएगा, छलांग मार के खुद को मार लेगा. So God moderates, Chitragupt moderates the sorrows and he passes it over lifetimes. But the rule is, जो भी अच्छा कर रहा है बंदा, जितना हो सके उसको तुरंत रिवॉर्ड कर दो उसके लिए. अच्छे को डिफर मत करो, बुरे कर्मों को डिफर करो और उसको पीस मिल में दो ओवर डिफरेंट लाइफ टाइम्स. सो दैट्स द ब्रॉड फिलोसॉफी. नाउ अभी मैं ये जन्म में जन्म ले लिया और मेरा इस जन्म का मौत निश्चित है इन अ ट्रक एक्सीडेंट. Now, what I do in this birth is completely in my hands. My karma is left to my buddhi, my vani, and my paramatma. These three tools God has given me to ensure that I am doing good karma in this birth and moving several strides towards salvation. Now, let's assume because of my good deeds in my prior birth, मैंने बुरा काम किया but अच्छे काम भी किए पहले मेरे पहले जन्म में, उसके बदौलत इस जन्म में समझ लो मेरा एक अच्छे परिवार में जन्म हुआ है, रिच फैमिली. लेट्स आई एम born to a rich father. So I have wealth when I am born. And right since childhood, I choose to be a good karmic. I help people. जिधर भी मैं पैसे का दान कर सकता हूँ पैसे का दान कर रहा हूँ, गरीबों की मदद कर रहा हूँ. So over the years, still I am 34 years old and I am destined to die now. I have done a lot of good deeds by helping other people. Exactly 3 to 4 weeks before my scheduled death in this birth, God will throw in front of me my first chance to buy back my life. God knows, चित्रगुप्त knows कि इसको 3 हफ्ते बाद हमको मारना है ट्रक एक्सीडेंट में. 3 हफ्ते पहले he will give me the first chance. So let's assume I am on the Mumbai-Pune highway. I am returning from Pune in my car with my driver, and I see a very nasty accident which has happened on the road. There's a poor Ola driver lying alone in his car. He has been hit badly by a truck. He's bleeding profusely from his head, and everybody knows that he's going to die in the next few minutes. He's in a very bad shape. He's alive, but he's going to die. Before me, 20 cars pass through that particular stretch. They see the poor Ola driver lying there in a pool of blood. But those 20 people, those 20 cars choose to ignore and move away. There are thousands of thoughts in their mind. अरे यार पुलिस केस होने वाला है, ये बंदा तो पक्का मरने वाला है, ये जिंदा नहीं बचने वाला है. हम लेके गए हॉस्पिटल में, भला किया और पता चला अपने पे ही पुलिस ने केस कर दिया कि तुमने इसको उड़ाया है. So all those kind of thoughts come into the mind of those 20 people and they just escape. कि नहीं भाई पुलिस को ही आने दो, पुलिस को उठाने दो, हम इसकी मदद नहीं करेंगे. I am the 21st person there. Now see how karma plays this game. Those 20 people who were there before me, the 20 cars before me, they are also karmically destined to die in murder. They are going to die in the hands of somebody else. And they are more luckier than me because I am 21st in that queue. मेरे आगे वो 20 लोगों ने उसको ठुकराया, वो अपॉर्चुनिटी को ठुकराया, तभी मैं 21st को चांस मिला वहां पे. अगर मेरे पहले ही कोई उसको बचा लेता, so I would not have got that particular chance. Then God would have to give me another chance to kind of buy back my life. So those 20 people ignored, they turned a blind eye. I, the 21st, reached there, and I am a soft heart in this birth. So I say, अरे यार, I tell my driver, देख बेचारा मर रहा है, चल उठा इसको, let's take him to the hospital. माई ड्राइवर से, अरे पागल हो आप सर, ये मरने वाला है और ये अगर मर गया पुलिस बोलेगा हमने इसको उड़ाया. मैं ड्राइवर हूँ गाड़ी का, मैं फंसने वाला हूँ, मैं इसको हाथ नहीं लगाने वाला. अगर कुछ हुआ आप अपने सर पे लोगे कि आपने इसको उड़ाया, मैंने नहीं उड़ाया, अपने ऊपर आ जाएगा. गलती मत करो सर. माई ड्राइवर इन दैट सिचुएशन गिव्स मी दिस दुर्बुद्धि, इसको मत बचाओ. He is also dissuading me from saving that person. Why is he giving me this durbuddhi? He is squaring off his karmic relationship with me. In some janam, I have given him durbuddhi in a particular situation. My Jivatma has given him durbuddhi in a particular situation. So karma made him come in this situation also, in this situation, and he squared off his karmic tie with me by just giving me, sowing that seed of negative thought into my mind, इसको नहीं बचाना है. Here is where my buddhi comes in. I say, okay, what my driver says makes sense, but for me, saving this life is more important than anything else. Hell with my driver, चल उठा इसको, कुछ भी प्रॉब्लम हुआ, I will take it on myself. कि मैं गाड़ी चला रहा था, तू चिंता मत कर, तेरे को कुछ नहीं होगा. I can only see one goal in front of me. I have to save this man's life. उठा इसको. With lot of reluctance, my driver helps me. We take him to the hospital. हॉस्पिटल में जाके डॉक्टर पूछता है पुलिस केस किया कि नहीं आपने इसके बारे में, हैव यू इन्फॉर्म द पुलिस. ऐसे देखो पुलिस केस करने का टाइम है, पहले इसकी जान बचाओ. ही इज गोइंग टू डाई, ही इज इन अ वेरी बैड शेप, यू कैन सी हिज हेड इज इंजर्ड, प्लीज सेव हिज लाइफ. डॉक्टर सेज इसका सर्जरी करना पड़ेगा, 5 लाख रुपए का खर्चा होगा, ये तो ओला ड्राइवर है, पैसा नहीं देने वाला, आप इसको गवर्नमेंट हॉस्पिटल में लेके जाओ. आई सेड तुम डॉक्टर है कि क्या है यार, एक आदमी का जान जा रहा है, तुमको 5 लाख की पड़ी है, 5 लाख चाहिए, ये लो चेक, मैं देता हूँ 5 लाख रुपया, बचाओ इसकी जान। डॉक्टर बोलता है यू क्रेजी, यू आर जस्ट स्पेंडिंग मनी फॉर अ रोड साइड पर्सन हु इज नॉट गोइंग टू पे यू बैक, एंड इसका बचने का कोई ऐसा गारंटी भी नहीं है, 20% चांस है ये बचेगा, 80% चांस ये मर मर जाएगा, कोमा में चला जाएगा या मर जाएगा, क्यों आप पैसे बर्बाद कर रहे हो? द डॉक्टर इज ऑल्सो गिविंग मी दुर्बुद्धि, again he is also karmically linked to me in some janam I have given him to, everybody is playing their part in the game, see how many people are linked together in that one incident, वो जो मरा मरता हुआ मेरे सामने आया वो भी मेरे साथ कार्मिकली लिंक्ड है, the dead person, the near dead person who came in front of me, I have done something good on him in some birth, because of which he came as a dying man in front of me and gave me this opportunity. So there are so many karmic linkages over here. I tell the doctor, you take your money, save his life. पैसा मेरा है ना, तू चिंता मत कर, 20% chance, it's a good chance. I want to run the risk, save his life. पैसा डूबा तो डूबा, no problem. I don't want to regret that I could have saved this man and I didn't save it. Doctor goes into the operation theater, calls for an emergency surgery, comes out after 2 hours. He says, "पता नहीं क्या हुआ." There was a miracle, divine intervention. Surgery super successful. The damage to his brain was not as much as we had thought it would be. His bleeding, his damage was very very superficial. In fact, good news ये कि वो कोमा में भी नहीं गया. We have just done the surgery. By tomorrow morning, he will be in his senses, and within 15 days, he will be discharged from the hospital. He's going to live. He's not going to die. So yes, your gamble paid. You have saved his life. And I say, wow, wonderful, that's good. हम और कितना पैसा चाहिए इसको 15 दिन हॉस्पिटल में रखने का? डॉक्टर से आप 1 लाख रुपया डिपॉजिट कर दो. I cut another check of 1 lakh of rupees and give it to the hospital so that he does not have to pay for that money. While I am leaving, his family comes in and his family realizes that I have saved his life. So while they are happy that his life is saved, they tell me, आपने क्यों इतना पैसा दिया? अभी हम आपको 6 लाख रुपए कहाँ से देंगे? I am a काम वाली बाई. I am his wife. I can't give you that money. I said I gave this money not with a view to get it back from you. I gave this money just to save his life. भूल जाओ वो 6 लाख रुपया और ये लो और 50,000 रुपया रखो. I cut another check in her name. Keep this money with you. He will need money for staying at home for a month or two, getting back to shape, and then he will start driving again. So for 2 months, this 50,000 should take care of your household expense. And she's like shell shocked. That day, I have done more than what God could have done for them in that particular situation. I am God for them that day. They just can't imagine कि कहाँ से आया इतने पैसे देके मेरे husband को बचा के चला गया. Now, as I leave the hospital, I am feeling very happy that I did a good deed. There, a green light flashes in my ERP in front of Chitragupta. Suddenly, there is a surprise entry. Chitragupta says, "अरे यार, सूरज इतने टेंशन दे दिया. 3 हफ्ते बाद मुझे इसको मारना है ट्रक एक्सीडेंट में." एंड आई गेव दिस अपॉर्चुनिटी टू हिम. 20 लोगों ने छोड़ दिया अपॉर्चुनिटी, ये सूरज 21वें ने पकड़ लिया. ही लैच्ड ऑन टू द अपॉर्चुनिटी. What does the law of karma say? What you give comes back to you. He has given life to somebody. If he has given life to somebody, he has to be again given back his life. हम उसको अभी मार नहीं सकते, उसको भी हमें एक बार जान देना पड़ेगा जहां वो मरने वाला था. So we will now have to gift him back with life. And as I said, good deeds are rewarded immediately, preferably in the same lifetime. So he said, अभी तो मेरे को इसका मौत बदलना पड़ेगा. He was to die in a road accident after 3 weeks. So what I will now do, this is what Chitragupta says, is मैं accident करवाऊंगा. Reason being कि सुरोजित has not saved the life of that same person जिसको उसने पिछले जन्म में मारा था. अगर उस सेम जीवात्मा का लाइफ इस जन्म में वो बचाता था तो एप्पल टू एप्पल होता था. देन वी कुड हैव वेव्ड ऑफ हिज पनिशमेंट कंप्लीटली. दैट डे वुड बी अ नॉर्मल डे फॉर सुरजित. देन उसकी मौत एक्सीडेंट ही नहीं होता था. बट इस केस में ही हैज नॉट डन एन एप्पल टू एप्पल, ही हैज डन अ बिग एप्पल टू अ स्मॉल एप्पल. He killed somebody else in last birth. This birth he saved somebody else. तो we can't absolve him completely of his prior sin. तो इसीलिए हम उसका एक्सीडेंट करवाएंगे. बट अभी जो सजाए मौत था उसको हम उम्र कैद कर देंगे. वी विल मेक इट लाइफ इम्प्रिजनमेंट इंस्टेड ऑफ कैपिटल पनिशमेंट. तो एक्सीडेंट जब होगा, सुरोजित का पैर फ्रैक्चर हो जाएगा वो एक्सीडेंट में बुरी तरह से. ट्रक उसके पैर के ऊपर से चला जाएगा, उसकी जान नहीं जाएगी वो एक्सीडेंट. दिस इज हाउ ही चेंजेस द एंट्री इन माय कर्मा अकाउंट. 3 weeks later, near about the same spot on the Mumbai Pune highway, I meet with an accident. the destined accident. Truck wala मुझे उड़ा के चला जाता है. This time he takes his truck above one of my legs. My leg is shattered. Now there will be an iron rod. I will walk with a limp for the rest of my life. I know that leg is kind of shattered completely. And the moment this accident happens, I look north and I tell God, God, why me? तुझे मैं ही मिला ये एक्सीडेंट करने का, और इस जगह पे जहाँ पे 3 हफ्ते पहले मैंने किसी की जान बचाई, उसी हॉस्पिटल में जाके अभी तू मेरे पैर का ऑपरेशन करवाएगा. यही तेरा न्याय है. दिस इज योर जस्टिस. I looked north and told God, why me? Because I could see what happened in that particular situation. I did not see what was otherwise destined to happen in that situation. वहां पे मेरा सर होने वाला था and not my leg. Instead of my head, my leg came in there because of the life that I saved over there 3 weeks back. So yes, our deeds in this current birth matter more than anything else. And with the quality of our deeds in this birth, we can change our destiny to a remarkable extent, to a great extent. It all boils down to how many good deeds you are doing in this birth and how much you are curbing your bad deeds. The more you can balance this, the stronger your current birth. जो होना है वो जरूर होगा, बट टच करके तुमको निकल जाएगा, तुमको मार नहीं पाएगा. जहाँ पे हाथ कटना था हाथ फ्रैक्चर हो जाएगा, जहाँ पे सर कटना था सर पे चोट आ जाएगा, but you will still survive. So that is why we should learn to thank God in prosperity. We should learn to thank God in adversity. जब अच्छा होता है भगवान थैंक यू सो मच, ये अच्छा किया तुमने. जब बुरा होता है, फ्रैक्चर हुआ, भगवान थैंक यू, सिर्फ फ्रैक्चर हुआ, ये पैर कट भी सकता था उस एक्सीडेंट में, फ्रैक्चर पे से निकाल दिया, थैंक यू सो मच. Thank God in adversity, thank God in prosperity. In fact, one last point which I would want to touch upon and which many people ask me is, how do you define karma? What is karma? Karma is nothing but any action done with an underlying intent that results in creation of karma. So you need an action, number one, and second, there has to be an underlying intent behind the action. जब ये दोनों चीज होते हैं तभी कर्मा क्रिएट होता है. Next, so what if I do an action without an intent? Let's say I move my hands like this. अभी जो ये जो मैंने हाथ हिलाया इसमें कोई इंटेंट नहीं था, जैसे ऐसे मन हुआ मैंने हिला दिया. So yes, there was an action here, but there was no karma in this action because there was no intent. The moment intent comes in, karma comes in. Next, what determines the quality of the karma? Good or bad karma? Is it the action or is it the intent? The answer to the question is intent. It is intent which matters and not the action. And that explains why when an Indian soldier standing on the border shoots a Pakistani militant and derives good karma out of it. Now, this act of shooting the militant was murder. It's a bad deed. You are taking away somebody's life. But the intent behind that murder was good. If I allowed that militant to come in, he would kill 200 civilians in my country. I'm saving my 200 civilians by killing this one pest. So because his intent was good, while his action was bad, it led to good karma. Similarly, a rich man doing charity, गरीबों को पैसे बांट रहा है, शोषा कर रहा है, just because he wants his name to come in the newspapers and उसके समाज में उसका नाम हो, उस वजह से वो चैरिटी कर रहा है. उसका अंडरलाइंग इंटेंट चैरिटी करने का ये नहीं कि गरीबों की मदद हो, ये मदद गरीबों की करके मेरा नाम बढ़े समाज में. That is his intent. So here, if you look at the action of doing charity, action is good, but his intent is bad. His intent was not to do charity. His intent was to gain fame out of charity. So that will result in bad karma for him, while his deed was good. So it is always the intent which matters and not necessarily the action. So when I say कर्म कर फल की चिंता मत कर, yes, we should do that. उसके साथ ही हमें मैक्सिमम अच्छे कर्म करने और बुरे कर्मों को कम करना है. और जहाँ पे हम अच्छा कर्म नहीं कर सकते, if we are handicapped, if we can't do अच्छा deed somewhere, at least we should not poke fingers and do something bad in that situation. If we can follow these few philosophies in life, life will automatically take us on the right path. And what we all of us are working for is our karmic balance. पैसा ये सब मोह माया है. The day you stop breathing, you are just worth 200 grams of ash. You are not carrying your BMW, you are not carrying your flats, you are not carrying your gold, you are not carrying your companies with you in your afterlife. That's going to remain here. and it's only going to ruin the lives of the people for whom you have left that particular empire. What goes with you is only your deeds, what you have done in this birth to make a difference in terms of your deeds. And that's going to move you several miles ahead on the path towards salvation. In fact, as we close, I would also request all your viewers to read this one book called The Laws of the Spirit World. This book has been written by a lady. Her name is Khorshid Bhavnagri. The Laws of the Spirit World has been written through automatic writing, through the process of automatic writing, where her dead children, she lost two of her sons. She had two sons. Both of them died in a road accident at a very young age. After their death, they connected with her through automatic writing and they explained what is afterlife. क्या होता है जब इंसान मर जाता है, कर्मा क्या होता है, how does karma have a role to play once you die, once you are into afterlife. That's the time when you recognize what was the ramification of all the deeds that you did during your birth. And I have been a researcher in this area for 20 years. I've read all the possible books which authors have written on afterlife, different authors. This particular book, The Laws of the Spirit World by Khurshid Bhavnagri, is the most authentic explanation of afterlife. In fact, unfortunately, I picked up this book in 2019 after reading all that I read for 20 years. And the only thought I had in my mind after reading this book was, gosh, had I read this book before doing my research, I would not have to do 19 years of research. So Bhagavad Gita comes first in my life. This book comes second. Then comes the Vedas, then comes the Puran and everything else. That's how great this particular book is. And I'm not a propagator or a marketeer of this book. This book has sold millions of copies. It has been written in all possible Indian languages. Shamak Dawar is the person who has publicized this book. Khurshid Bhavnagri is no more. She helped a lot of people in connecting with their dead counterparts, with their dead relatives through automatic writing till she was alive. She died in 2003, I guess, and after her death, Shamak Dawar popularized this book. So it's a beautiful read. People who don't have the time to read through mythology and read through complex literature, if they can just invest time in this 300-page book, this can transform their lives. The Laws of the Spirit World by Khurshid Bhavnagri. That will be a good takeaway from this section. From this session.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for coming on board. Thank you so much for this wonderful discussion that we have had. I hope the viewers gained a lot. And if you did, please put it in the comments below. And if you want Sir again, please go to his channel, hit subscribe, put in the comments, please come on the Student's Perspective again. And we'll soon enough have another podcast and way more podcasts coming up for you guys. Thank you so much.
Thank you.